This is Scott Richmond
and Arnie Sherman.
You're listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 1015 FM. Good morning, Arnie Sherman. How are you today?
Pretty good, Scott. How are we doing?
Good, thanks.
You know, it's graduation season here, in Montana, in Missoula, and around the country. It's an interesting time, in people's lives. Challenging. It's daunting, for sure. As the future stands before them. I was thinking about this morning as we were preparing for the show. And, life in general, I was very philosophical. Life in general is a meandering journey, isn't it, really?
Yes.
So did you know, way back when,
right,
that you'd be here this morning with me doing this radio show?
No.
When you were going to school, what did you think you'd be doing?
When I was 49 years old in May?
When you were still in school, yeah. No, when you were in school, when you were growing up, what did you think you'd be doing?
I had no idea. I didn't even think that far. I didn't know.
Right. And when you went to college, did you have a plan at that point?
At that point, I knew I wanted to be in the music business. But that was not until the end of my college career when I was exposed to a lot of cool things.
Yeah. So you got graduation season. People are trying to figure out what they're going to do next.
Right.
They go to graduate school. Lots of people try to put it off.
Yep.
No one is doing now. None of the adults that we know that I can think of, unless you got boxed into being a doctor or something
right.
like that. None of them are doing what they studied in college. I was a psychology major. Before that, I was a pre-med major. I thought I might be a doctor, and then I was going to be a psychology major. And now, I'm a businessman and doing a radio show with you.
Yep.
So you never know where you're going to be. And today, we have a pretty interesting guest who has been involved in both sports and entertainment, which are two probably of the most favorite topics for just about anyone.
Yes.
And Austin Mullins, our guest, went to University of Montana. He was a football star. He's from Great Falls. He was a linebacker in high school and was highly recruited. I think he was recruited by Colorado State and some other major schools. Wyoming, I think. It's Colorado State and Wyoming. Came here. By the time he was a senior, he had bulked up to like 270 pounds and became a lineman. But he realized there wasn't going to be a career after college in football for him. He understood that. Most people do. We've talked about that before on the Mark Mariani show about how few people make it into the NFL. So in his back pocket, he had a certificate in entertainment management. He had a music minor, studied the piano. Went on, got his MBA in 2010, and then went down to Nashville, crashed at Mark Mariani's apartment, ironically, and got a job in the mailroom, as everybody starts, at what was called then William Morris Endeavor, and now it's WMEIMG.
Right.
And has become an agent in country music, and he's in Nashville. And we're going to call him up today and talk about his career in music, like your career in music.
Right.
It took a different kind of turn for him. What being an agent is like, what booking talent's like, what the world of country music in Nashville is like for someone in his position.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's the right kind of time to talk about it, because I knew Austin when he was in school, and this is what he wanted to do.
Really?
And, and here he is, 6 years later doing it. So he was focused, as opposed to you and I, who had a meandering journey like most people, and we're doing something now that we had never envisioned doing.
He knew he wanted to be an agent.
He knew he wanted to be an agent.
How do you know you want to be an agent?
Well,
I got to ask him that.
Well, we're going to ask him that. We're going to call him up in Nashville, and we're going to find out what's going on.
Okay, we'll be right back with What Do You Know with Scott and Arnie, and our guest is Austin Mullins. All right, we're back with What Do You Know, and our guest is Austin Mullins. How are you, Austin?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great, Austin. So tell us how you got from the gridiron, at Washington Grizzly Stadium down to Nashville working for WMEIMG. What used to be William Morris Endeavor, and then it merged with IMG. So what was this direct route from here down to Nashville that you pursued?
Well, the literal route is I threw everything in my pickup truck and I moved down here and I slept on a couch for 2 months.
And I know whose couch one of our former guests, Mark Mariani. Was he a good host for you?
He was. You know, we were lucky. Mark and I, we've known each other since we were about 14. We played against each other in high school, and then obviously got to be teammates for 5 years in Missoula. And so when he got drafted, he came over to the condo I was staying in Missoula a couple days later and said, "Dude, we got a place now." So I said, "All right, well, I'll be giving you a call in about August or September when I'm ready to come down," and I made the move then. So, but really, you know, my growing up, my entire life, I've just been. I grew up in a house full of music.
Was it your dad a singer-songwriter?
Well, he gave it a shot,
right.
You know. But he played guitar, and he really kind of was my ear. He was the one that gave me a sense of music and what to listen for. And my mother also played piano, so she was really encouraging.
Give us a little background. Where did you grow up? How big of a family do you have?
Well, that's a fun story in itself. I was actually born in Texas. My mother's from Montana, and my dad's from Texas. So when they got married, that's where they lived. That's where I was born.
That's how you got the name Austin, I would imagine.
My dad went to UT Austin, so
yes.
it was an easy choice for him on names. And then I have a younger sister who's about 2.5 years younger than me, and our parents got divorced when we were real young, and so our mother moved us back to Montana to be near her family. So Montana's my home because that's where I grew up, but I also consider myself a dual citizen, having, you know, my dad and his whole side of the family down in Texas, mostly within the Dallas area, and I spent a lot of time with my dad growing up too. I spent the whole summer and pretty much every Christmas down there. So I mean, even though I was with my mother for, you know, the majority of the year, I was still with my dad almost 4 months out of the year.
Right, and then you played football in Great Falls, got recruited not only by the Grizz, but as I recall, you got recruited by Wyoming and Colorado State and some others, and decided to stay in Montana. Yeah,
you know, when the recruiting process happens, there's two ways that it can happen. You can either get recruited by almost nobody, which is what happened with Mark, and you know, everyone knows what's gone on for him. And for me, it was like everybody wanted to recruit me, and I ended up not, you know, I was an all-conference player in college, but I wasn't, you know, a superstar. But, you know, so I got recruited all over the place. Really, I wanted to get out of Montana. I wanted to go somewhere different. But especially, you know, with my interest being in music. And I went to the University of Montana and for my visit, and the music school's right across from the business school. And I knew I wanted to, at that time, double major in business and in music. And also, Montana had this entertainment management program that really interested me. And so I was just blown away by the visit. And I actually have family in Missoula. And so
it all made sense for you.
I pulled the trigger.
Can you tell us some of the alumni of the businessman or entertainment management program who have gone on to great heights? Like, I know the Goon. I know Mike from my old job.
And he's not an alum. He's a founder.
He's a founder. Okay.
Yeah. So I believe it started in 2000, 2001, and it was founded by several alum from the University of Montana that ended up in the business school. And so yeah, Mike McGinley, a.k.a. the Goon, and he was the accountant for people like Pearl Jam and Elton John and several others.
Right.
Actually, the co-head of my office here at WME is a Montana alum, Rob Beckham, and he's, you know, an agent for several large names. And then another one of the partners here at the Nashville office is Keith Miller. He's from Kalispell, and he's a Montana alum, and
wow,
you know, he's the agent for Vince Gill and several others. And he actually was his assistant for 2.5 years too. So, it's funny. There's a little clique of people. They call us the Montana Mafia, and we're just these random people from Montana that get out and try to make some way in the music industry, and we've done well, or at least I try to uphold, what.
And you do a good job of that. And you were smart. Austin was a student of mine, and one of the better students that I had during my time at the university. And he knew. I think I can speak for you and say you knew that the NFL wasn't necessarily beckoning. So you went ahead and got an undergraduate degree from the business school and an MBA from the University of Montana, and an entertainment management certificate and a music minor with, I guess, in piano, was it?
Well, the minor is just a general. There's no festivity to it, but you do have to pick a principal instrument. Mine has always been bass. I studied bass starting the summer after 5th grade. Mm-hmm. So I was in a jazz trio there the whole time when I was on campus. Oh. So I was odd, especially being in the football locker room. I was in class, a lot of time with the business guys and a lot of teammates in there. But then I'd go over to the music school and I'd be sitting in a room tuning a bass with a piano and then going and playing jazz events and stuff like that. So when you had made a beeline for Nashville and crashed on Mary Annie's couch, did you have a job? Had William Morris Agency offered you an internship or an entry-level anything? No. I had the best thing you can do within that entertainment management program is network, because if you make it apparent what you would like to pursue as a career and speak to the speakers that come in and network with them, you can get at least an interview. And that's all I wanted.
Right.
Because that's all a lot of them, that's all they can promise you. So I got in pretty good with a guy named James Yelich, who is from Red Lodge, Montana, and an alum of the University of Montana, and he got really well known in Nashville because he was the agent that discovered Alan Jackson.
Ah.
Wow.
And so he was a good guy to know, and he's been a tremendous mentor for me. And the line starts to the left for the agents in Nashville that were his assistant at one point,
Sure.
So he made a call to WME to get me an interview. I did, pretty much right when I moved to town. And I went in for the interview, and they said, "No, we don't want you."
Yeah, well, that was a great introduction, right?
Yeah. I was 6 days in town, and I got told no. And
why did they tell you they didn't want you?
Well, apparently it's a game, or it used to be. I don't think their hiring practices are necessarily the same anymore since our human resource management has changed a little bit here over the years.
Right.
But what they like to do is they like to bring you in essentially for a preliminary interview just to see if they like you. Right. And then they want to see what you do after they tell you no. And so when I found that out, when they told me no, I called Keith Miller, who's already working here, and said, "Hey, Keith, I'm Austin Mullins. I'm one of your former assistants, students at Montana, and I just came in for an interview, and then at the end of the interview, they told me they weren't hiring. So that's confusing to me. Why would you call me in for an interview if you're not hiring?"
Right.
And so I went and met with him and his assistant, and his assistant told me the same thing happened to him, and he goes, "What you need to do over the next little bit of time is network and get to know everyone here, even though you don't work here, and have them fight for you to get you hired." And
right.
So you're good. So you ended up being like George Costanza on Seinfeld, just showing up for work even though you didn't have a job.
Yeah, I was sneaking into concerts. I was sneaking into conventions. I was pretending to be people I wasn't, just so I could shake hands. And
what year is this, Austin? What year is this? 2011?
Yeah, I moved here September of 2010, so it was a span from September to the mid-January.
Got it.
And eventually by mid-January, I got a call from HR just saying, "All right, everyone at this office keeps saying we need to hire you. Will you come in for a second interview? And I went in and, we had another talk, and finally they hired me. So finally, January 31st of 2011, I got hired.
Wow.
And
where'd you start? You didn't start in the mailroom, did you?
Oh, yeah, that's where everyone started.
I know. That's the story, right? And it's true. I just wanted to verify that.
I'm by no means, the biggest superstar that they've hired here. I'm a kid from a ranch family in Montana, and but I have a degree and I had a master's, and you know what? You start out handing out mail and cleaning dishes and picking up garbage, just utilizing almost nothing that you spent 4 to 5 years in college other than determination and just wanting to move up.
How long did it take before someone put you under their wing and said, "Come with me," and took you to the next level?
Well, I'd say there's several other smaller steps, but I started in the mailroom in January, and then I think it was by June I got hired on as an assistant. And that's when you really start to rock and roll here. That's where you start to learn the actual process of becoming an agent, and that's when the pressure really starts. When you're cleaning up dishes, you're like, man, there's no pressure here at all. You just got to make sure the dishes are clean.
But so someone's on the call you're on the call with your boss the whole time. He's on with manager, artist, whomever, unless he says stay off the call.
Yeah, the vast majority of time you're on calls with buyers.
Right.
You can be on sometime with managers. That's just, the preference of the agent. Sometimes when it's agent-manager conversation, they like to keep those more private. But
I see.
You're rolling calls with your agent all day, no matter if they're in the office or somewhere else.
No matter what time of day, too, correct?
For the most part.
Yeah.
L.A. and New York, they tend to be a little more demanding in that area. Nashville, we tend to be a little more laid back and let our assistants, have their free time when they can.
Sure.
But
so Austin,
go ahead.
Fast forward to May 2016. What are you doing now?
So now I'm officially an agent.
And how long has that been?
So this would be my second year. So I got promoted 2 Decembers ago. So It's been 1 year and 4 months.
Right.
5. So.
And what's your agent focus?
So I work in music and specifically country music, and my territory is the South and the Southeast, and I book clubs. So every agent has a territory, and within that territory, you have a certain tier of venue. Since I'm a newer agent, I'm at the bottom. So I'm doing very small clubs. There's an agent above me that does much larger clubs that are like Billy Bob's Texas.
Sure.
In Fort Worth. It's a club, but it's 4,500 cap. I mean, that's 4 Wilmas. That's huge.
Right.
And then there's the agent, at the top who does arenas and large casinos. So it's an interesting dynamic because, when you reach the pinnacle of being an assistant, you're working for that agent doing arenas. And so before that, I was working for Keith Miller, and I was doing the Northeast. So every day I got to talk to Madison Square Garden and TD Garden in Boston.
Right.
And then you get promoted, and now I'm talking to Hokies in Cleveland, Tennessee. So it's a quick switch on you.
Do you book people into Tunica?
Yeah, we do some stuff in Tunica.
I've been to Tunica.
The Roadhouse Casino's mine, man, if you ever want to go.
I know. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from Memphis, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of, let's just say a few of my coworkers have done some guide trips there when there's some Memphis Grizzly games.
Sure.
I bet.
So is the talent at your club level new talent that's coming up and then old talent that's coming down?
I mean, I'd say a lot more in the talent coming up.
Okay, good.
Even though talent, inevitably everything that goes up must come down.
Right.
They still tend to have a pretty high price point and never seem to dip below it. So, I'm dealing with clubs that have a certain ceiling on their price point, and not a lot of those traditional or legendary acts are going to go below it. But
sure. So
a lot of these up-and-coming acts, and it's fun to see that because, even since I've started this, acts like Dylan Scott and Chris Lane, no one even knew when I got promoted to agent, and now Chris Lane's got a single that's number 16 on the chart.
Sure.
So
at this level, what kind of cap do they have for entertainment, salary cap? What kind of fees are the booking fees at the clubs you're working in?
Oh, come on. That's privileged info.
You don't have to tell me a specific club. I'm just talking about the rate.
What's the average capacity of the venues?
Probably some of the biggest clubs I have are about 500 capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at, probably the biggest acts that they can put in there is probably going to be a $20 ticket. So take 500 times 20, and there's your number. Right.
So I have a story I want to tell you. Mm-hmm. A country music story. So it's probably 1990, 91, and I'm in Kirksville, Missouri.
Okay.
Doing work for the Kirksville College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Ooh.
And they have me staying in Kirksville, Missouri at the Holiday Inn.
Stop bragging.
Yeah, it's a huge venue. And I walk into the hotel at 9 o'clock at night to check in, and there's a bar in the hotel. And I hear people kind of shuffling around in the bar. So I stick my head in, and there's a group up on the stage, and there's not a single person in the bar. Completely empty, and they're standing there. So I walk in, and they, I guess, feel the obligation to start playing. And I kind of walk over and I say, hey, guys, you don't have to play for me. In fact, I wasn't really even going to stay. I just wanted to see what it looked like. So get off the stage. So make a long story short, they sat down. I bought them some drinks. I kind of felt bad no one was there. And we started chatting. And they started playing at the table a little bit of music, and they sounded awful good. And I said, well, do you guys have an agent? And they say, yeah, we have an agent. And I said, well, I know some guys in Kansas City. I'm trying to be helpful. And they said, no, we think we're in pretty good shape. And I said, well, do you have an album out? I said, we're getting ready to release an album. And it turns out it's Clint Black.
That's funny.
And even a guy like Clint Black starts out in, this is 6 months before Killing Time came out, and he rockets to superstardom. He's sitting in a club in Kirksville, Missouri, with not a single person in the room.
Yeah. A lot of these guys have to cut their teeth, and I've heard plenty of stories of them, all they're playing to is the bar and the bar backs. So
sure.
It happens. You try to put them in the best situation possible, but at the same time...
Pre-Lisa Hartman. Exactly.
Yeah, pre-Lisa Hartman. Yeah, totally different. Hey, do you run into the issue even at this level with new talent, with stage parents? Do they show up, or does that not an issue?
Oh, you mean like momagers?
Yes, momagers.
Oh, yeah, it happens. It happens. And you just... I would say it's not unlike any sort of business where there is a control factor, and you have to learn how to navigate that.
I mean, you're a part psychologist, right? Because you not only have that issue, but you might have a situation where the family is either pushing a talent in the wrong direction or holding them back or doing something like that, and you're the agent, right? And
well, we're the agent, and we can help navigate certain things, but really and truly, a true manager is the one that would try to diffuse that if they could.
Right.
Now, if the parents are being sticklers and saying, no, we're going to be the managers, then you have to figure out a way to navigate it. And how do you set that? If you believe in that artist, how are you going to set them up with other people around them and other people on the team to help them succeed, whether that's a label or a business manager or an attorney.
Momagers.
Right.
I come from the music business, so momagers were who we dealt with all the time. Usher's mother, right? Mm-hmm. She oversaw his career. Remember Nick Carter and what's the other one? Aaron Carter. Those kids, they had a tough family, too, because they had parents who were managers, but then they went through a divorce. So which is the worst part about when the family manages the kids or tries to manage the kids, is that you have warring factions. within the family.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you, Austin, do you make your bones, you move up the food chain by finding new talent? Is that part of your job, to keep an eye out and ear out for new talent?
Yeah.
And what do you look for these days in a country music talent? You know, what are you looking for in an artist? How do you know you found somebody that's going to be, that's going to make it?
Yeah. Well, okay, so there's two different ways to look at it. And the first one I always go for is just the gut feeling. If I hear the music and I see the act and you have, the hair stand up on your arm right away, that's something I'm very into and I want to work with. Then I have to look at it from the business aspect. And, you just got to get to know them in that sense. Are they completely green? They're here right off the Trailways bus and they don't know anyone in town? Or is this an act that maybe has been chewed up and spit out by this town already?
Right.
And maybe, have they burned a bridge? Or, hey, does this act also have label interest? Are there record labels or are there publishers that are chasing them too? Because if there are, that's a home run.
Sure. That's one of the addicting things to me in watching a show like The Voice. You watch somebody at the beginning of the season who's green, and by the time they're in the final 6 or 7, they look like a very polished talent at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's a good source for potential clients? Are the attorneys, lawyers actually feeding you guys?
Definitely. Attorneys are the PROs, and the three main PROs are BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC.
Right.
Publishers, record labels.
Who are the most powerful publishers in Nashville?
Oh, pretty much the same ones owned by the record labels: Sony, Universal, Warner, Chappell.
Uh-huh.
And then there's some independents that do really well, such as Seagale, Magic Mustang, Carnival, Olay. So there's plenty. There's a whole bunch, and it just kind of depends as the artist what you're looking for. Do you want a Warner Chappell that has one of the largest catalogs in the world, or do you want something like Cobalt, where you're going to go in and you're going to be one of like 6 or 7 acts, and they're going to be pitching you day and night. So it just depends on the situation.
Yep, let's do a quick ID. You're listening to What Do You Know with Scott and Arnie on KGVO. Our guest is Austin Mullins.
So, Austin, what's the role in this day and age of social media, and where do you think that's heading for artists?
As far as my work and the interaction, it's really big, especially with the up-and-coming acts. There are a lot of acts that are getting signed right now just because their social media numbers are insane.
Right.
One of our newest acts here is a guy named Kane Brown, and no one had ever heard of him before, except he had over 1.5 million Facebook followers.
Jeez.
So, and he actually just released his first ad on the media charts today, and it said, since we signed him in November until now, he's had 43 sold-out shows.
Wow.
And the highest, I think I'm pulling up my charts right now, but his song on the charts, the highest it ever went was 36.
So it really is changing. It used to be what's number 1 on the charts right now, and then you got a guy who maybe on 36 on the charts, but he's got 1 million people listening to him on the internet.
Well, especially pop music and country music have been so radio-driven forever, where ticket sales are almost directly correlated with your relation on the radio. But now social media is translating to ticket sales and a lot less radio, especially in the younger market.
Hey, remember, you're on the radio right now.
Yeah,
but then he's going to be on the internet next week. So
yeah, that's true. You'll be on both sides.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying you guys need to get a Facebook page right now.
Well, the good news about what we do is we are all platforms, and I think anybody in the radio space now that's not doing that is at a serious disadvantage.
Oh yeah.
So to somebody who comes in, let's use not this artist, but an artist like this. So somebody comes in, no one ever heard of him. He doesn't, his songs aren't on the charts, but he's got 1.5 million followers. What kind of weight does that give somebody walking into, into your office?
It gives them tremendous amount. Well, first of all, you have to find out whether or not that those followers are real.
Right.
Because you can go on Facebook and buy followers.
Yeah. Right.
You can actually do that. And once we determined this guy was real, and then you heard the music, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
And now he's going to be on tour with Florida Georgia Line this summer. So
wow.
it's
and how old a guy is this?
That's powerful.
How old is he? He's 21, 22.
Wow.
Somewhere in there.
Oh.
And he's from right outside of he's on the Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Georgia border.
So who helped him figure out how to get to the point?
Or how did he build it?
Yeah, I mean, how did he build 1.5 million followers? A guy like that no one ever, that had no inside connection.
Well, there's a case study that's being done on this right now because he did have inside help.
Okay.
How exactly that all came to be, I don't know. I just I haven't delved into it enough, but he did have some help, and the main was a guy named Jay Frank, who essentially over the last few years has really worked on this idea of social media and how to get followers.
Right.
So he found essentially an algorithm that got Kane's name out to the demographic that they wanted for him.
What's his name again, Austin?
J-A-Y Frank.
Not the consultant, the artist.
Oh, Kane Brown.
Kane Brown.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what kind of advice do you give to somebody who wants to get in the business now? What should they prioritize? Let's assume they have a good voice, they've written some songs, and and they've gotten some encouragement that you should, you have something there. What advice do you give somebody like that who might be even listening to the show?
I would say you need to go to town, and by that I mean whichever route you want to take, you need to get to Nashville or Austin or LA or New York, because you need to get within those circles, whatever they are that fit you. And that goes for someone who wants to be an artist or someone that just wants to work in that industry.
Sure. So that would apply to songwriters as well. Someone who can't.
I was going to say, is Kane a singer-songwriter?
Yeah, he has a publishing deal with
full
Universal.
Package.
Yeah, he just signed his pub deal with Universal last week.
That's great. That's huge.
So you got to come to town, and you got to just meet people. And I'm not saying I'm the poster child for what to do, but you just got to go to events.
Well, how many of those people are hanging around Nashville? I mean, every TV show on Lifetime Network is somebody shows up in Nashville and banging on the door and has a demo and all that. I mean, do they just have to go through that just like you had to wash dishes?
Yeah. I mean, when you're hunting down a publishing deal,
yes.
I mean, and not that, and anyone's first publishing deal is not any great amount of money,
right?
I mean, you're hoping for 28 to 32 grand guaranteed,
right?
And that's a draw that you're gonna have to pay back if you ever get a song cut. So,
wow.
But that's what you're gunning for, and so. You got to show up at the coffee shops and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my card, and I want to do a writer's round here.
We used to go to the Bluebird, or the... we used to go to the Bluebird Cafe for they used to do a guitar pull.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
yeah, they do those twice a day.
Austin, it's interesting because Nashville, I would say, certainly the last 10 years, every, good working musicians and working songwriters, regardless of what genre they're in, are going to Nashville. Nashville, for a very long time, used to be thought of as just the home of country and, religious, gospel, Christian music. But now it's everything. It's, tell us a little bit about that. Has that made your job easier, more complicated? Tell us.
It hasn't made it more complicated. It's made it more fun for me because, anyone that knows me knows that country music isn't necessarily my favorite in the world. I love it because I enjoy all music, but I love being in a city where I can hear any type of music I want any given night. And so it hasn't made my job more difficult. My job specifically, it's made it more interesting because I'm in an office in Nashville, and there's also rock agents in here, and there's also Christian agents in here.
Right.
And that creates a synergy when, Kenny Rogers is one of our clients and say he wanted to go on a gospel run. Or, Eric Church, he's known for taking rock acts out on the road with him. Well, guess what? His agent, his office is right next door to our rock agent. Well, there's your conversation.
So tell me the truth. You guys watch Vinyl on TV? Did you guys all watch that?
I watched the first episode, and I was just like, that's kind of bogus.
Right. That's so 70s and 60s, right?
Yeah. Well, I really liked Andrew Dice Clay's character in it.
But he didn't last very long, did he?
He didn't last too long. But, there's a lot of truth to it, as far as the old system with payola and stuff like that.
Sure.
That was real interesting to see. But then I talked to a lot of the old-timers, if you will, that I work with, and they were like, that's all a bunch of crap. And they started naming all the different reasons why that wasn't necessarily that.
Depends on when they got into the business, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. So you're living the dream, right? You came out of the university, you went down there. It's been 6 years. Are you having fun? Is this what you thought it would be? Do you have any regrets?
I don't have any regrets. I got really lucky to pick the right school and to pick the right city and to be here at the right time. But I knew when I was a junior in college that agency is the route that I wanted to go. And so I got lucky, and at the same time, I know that I put in a lot of work my 5 years in Missoula, and put in a lot of work my first 4 months here, getting to know as many people as I could to put me in a position to do okay.
It's a very competitive business that you're in, and that's, I think, a testament to how good you are, that you've grown through the ranks, since 2011 when you were a trainee. That's a hard deal.
Well, the oddity too is, and I think it's an encouragement from a lot of people from smaller communities. The Montana-Nashville connection was pretty strong, and you wouldn't have necessarily expected that when you thought about it, or you looked at it.
Yeah, I've gone back and got to speak to the entertainment management program a few times, and I'm pretty straightforward with them. And more or less, I tell them, if you're not taking this class seriously, or you're taking it to get a gen ed or whatever, you need to just get out, because there's people, on this campus or on that campus that have real dreams of making it.
Sure.
And you need to just get out of their way. Every kid that I graduated with from that program that wanted very seriously to be in the music or entertainment space got in it, and at some level. And so where you're from, that's just something on your birth certificate. When you move here to town, whichever one it is, like I said,
it's how hungry you are. It's how hungry you are. We had, back in the 90s, when I got into the music business, we had MBAs taking jobs as assistants if they could get it. MBA, somebody who probably spent 6 years, 8 years in college.
Right.
7 years in college to become a $30,000 a year assistant. But that was it. And if they had the skills and they worked hard, they became became in product development, etc. So
they got paid $30,000 back then. That's way better than now.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. So without divulging any confidentialities, Austin, what are the oddest celebrity demands that you've seen since you've been in the biz?
I'll be honest, I haven't gotten too many really odd ones. For the most part, people are people, and some are better to deal with than others, and that goes for artists as well. But there's one artist that we've had with us, 2 different times during my stint here, and he in his rider He purposely asks for something, and he words it funny just to make sure people are reading it. And he always asks for it every show that he asks for one-armed police officer. But if you read it, it says a one-armed police officer.
Right.
And so you'll have buyers call you every once in a while and go, be like, how am I going to find a police officer with only one arm?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and so you kind of run into those personalities every once in a while, but I don't necessarily get those demands. Management really gets kind of the crazy demands because they're talking to the artist every single minute of every day.
Yeah, who are you interfacing mostly with on a day-to-day basis? Like, who are your go-tos? Is it the venue operator, the booking agent, the? Tell us who you're dealing with.
Well, I'm 90% of the time when I'm on the phone or on an email, I'm talking to some sort of talent buyer or promoter. So whoever is buying the talent and then putting on the show. That's the core of my business. And then I have, a couple acts that I'm the responsible agent for, and so I talk to their managers pretty much daily, just with updates, but nothing too significant. Just, hey, here's where we're at today, and I usually get an email back saying, okay, sounds great, or let's do this instead. And then, the other bit of my time is since I'm lower on the totem pole here, are getting demands from the higher-up agents who are the responsible agents for these acts that we're booking. And they're telling us, hey, here's what our acts need. Go get it.
Right. But question is, so if one of your artists that you're a responsible agent for breaks through from the club level to the, theater level, let's say, I don't know what the next one is, do you get rewarded for that kind of ascendancy, like that ascension?
Not necessarily when it happens, but, when
overtime.
When bonus time comes around, maybe there's an argument there, or when your contract is up for renewal.
Sure. How long a contract are people like you typically on?
Well, I don't know if I want to say.
Okay.
But typically, when you sign your first one, it's a lot longer than your next year.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't asking you personally because we know that you have probably the best contract there. After you took my negotiation class, I'm sure you got the best deal possible that you could get.
Yeah, well, let's just say that when I tried to negotiate that after I had my attorney review it.
Right.
Mark Geiger, the head of music for WME, called and said no.
No. Well, that's a pretty good, clear response.
And that's it. He goes, your first contract, there is no negotiating. There's plenty of people behind you that would love to be an agent right now.
Well, it's like the NFL, right? It's like a rookie contract in the NFL, just like the one Mark signed, right?
Yeah, years. If there's really no room for negotiation at all unless you were the number one pick in the draft.
That's exactly
correct. And here, there isn't one because there is no draft.
Right. There's no draft, and,
If there is a draft, it's more like the one in the armed services as opposed to the NFL.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. You've been around now for 5-6 years. What are the biggest mistakes on the ascendancy route for a young new talent? What's the biggest mistake they make in their career path? Have you noticed something that stands out that you can see right away and try to help correct?
Yeah, once we start working with these younger people, I have a tendency to see them work too much.
Mm-hmm.
The key to these younger acts and breaking them is 80 to 90% of the time is getting them a record deal. And if you can get them a record deal, you essentially have an investor that's willing to pump anywhere from $1 million to $2 million into them to get them off the ground. Other than that, you're hoping that they just hit the lottery. And so some of these acts, a lot of them, they just think that in order to get that attention from a record label, they need to be touring a lot, and a lot. And that's not necessarily the case. Me running you around the entire United States playing a bunch of shows isn't going to get you a record deal. Your music is going to get you a record deal, and the fact that you're playing some shows and doing well in some good markets,
right?
That's sexy to them. They don't if they look and see you're playing 200 shows, they're just going to say, all right, well, they're just really busy.
Sure. So what do you see yourself doing in 2 or 3 years, 4 years? What's your trajectory on this? What would you hope to if I call you up from nursing home in 3 or 4 years? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'd hope to have moved
hang up.
Yeah, right. You're going to hang up on me.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I've moved up into the next tier of agent, that mid-level, and then also hope to maybe have 1 or 2, possibly 3 responsible or clients that I'm responsible for that
right.
have radio hits.
Sure.
So that's how you can make not only a living but a living for a while,
a good long time. So
yeah.
last thing before we let you go. You're talking to 2 kind of broken down old hippie guys who are trying to get back into their prime in their industry. Do you think there's any future for us? Is there a way you can help us move to the national stage? Scott and I have big dreams for our retirement years.
Mm-hmm. Just keep dreaming.
Hey, wait! I have a serious question.
Yeah.
Where best biscuits and gravy in Nashville? Where do you go?
The Hermitage Cafe.
All right.
Seriously?
Yeah, somebody's probably going to tell you the Loveless Cafe, but you don't want to go there and wait in line all morning. You want to go to the Hermitage Cafe. It's going to be the closest thing to like the Ox in Missoula that you're going to find.
Perfect.
That's a good recommendation, Austin.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, cash only, and just go in, and it'll knock your socks off.
Fantastic.
Oh, you've been an awesome guest, Austin. Thank you.
It's been terrific. It's good catching up with you. It looks like you got yourself well grounded, and you know where you're headed, and hopefully we can get you back on and sometime in the future and hear how things are progressing.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm going to be up there around the 4th of July, so maybe I'll run into you.
Come into the studio.
Come into the studio. We'll whatever.
We'll introduce you to all of our country western staff.
You know Kiss FM.
You know Kiss FM, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Maybe we can get some business done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the name of the game. Thank you, Austin. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great, guys. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Take care.
Too, sir.
All right. Bye.
That was Austin Mullins on What Do You Know? Arnie, wonderful guest.
He's very polished now. I remember him when he was on campus and student. He slimmed down. He was 6'5", 270. He's slimmed down. He's polished. He sounds like he's well situated in the industry, and I just have a lot of. I feel good to hear.
You're fond of him.
I'm fond of him. He's a good guy.
You have a lot of successful students that have gone on to great careers, and here's another one.
Well, I mean, it's all about networking. When I used to teach him, and this has nothing to do with what he's done. It wasn't based on my advice, but I always told every class, every student. I had 15 to 1,700 students that I taught over the years. I said, everything is based on relationships. I drilled that into them.
Right.
And, of course, so far when you hear about careers like Austin's, that's exactly what he did. He followed the relationship trail. Yep.
That's how I got my first job in the music business, relationships. That's how, you're 100% right.
Good. Well, we have a good show coming up next week, and
the founders of Kale will be here.
Founders of Kale will be here. We're talking about entrepreneurship and starting a new business in the food and nutrition area.
Beautiful. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is What Do You Know with Scott and Arnie on KGVO. Our guest was Austin Mullins, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to What Do You Know?
I can't wait for the next show, Scott.
I'm excited too, Arnie. If you'd like to suggest a guest, send me an email at scottrichmond@townsquaremedia.com. We'll see you next week. And thanks for listening to Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290, 101.5 FM, and newstalkkgvo.com.